Welcome to It's a Grand Life, where our mission is to be a voice for grand families and kinship caregivers everywhere. Did you know that in the United States alone, there are 2.3 million grandparents raising their grandchildren? 2.3 million. It's a Grand Life is committed to making a difference for those kids. That's why we have the podcast, a Facebook group, and the Grand Fund. The Grand Fund, which is a 501c3 which was launched in June of 2024, provides financial assistance to grand families, including shelter, food, clothing, and household needs. Grand families are in every neighborhood, in every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, we're here for you. And we welcome you to join us on this mission. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. You can also join our Facebook group. Just search for it under It's a Grand Life. And your reviews, comments, and sharing of our podcasts help us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash. I'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And we have got a new friend joining us today in the studios, Greg Swan. And Greg has a very unique story about an organization that he and a couple other friends have started called Fentanyl Fathers. And this is a group of parents who have unfortunately lost a loved one due to fentanyl overdose, but they are a group that is taking the country, especially high school auditoriums, by storm. And I believe, after you hear Greg's story, that you'll be convinced, as I am, that they are a force for preventing more grand families with the work that they're doing. But Greg, thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to It's a Grand Life.
It's my pleasure, my honor, Craig, and the extended family of It's a Grand Life, and we're in the same family, just two sides of the same coin, basically.
But your focus, my friend, is all about prevention, and that's, by the time someone becomes a grand family, you're raising grandparents or grandkids and other relatives, but you and your partners are going around the country doing some amazing work. And how did Fentanyl Fathers come to be?
So it born out of pain, and pardon me, I'm near a railroad track, so you're going to hear a railroad going by there, but it's all part of the ambiance. And also, I just wanted to add, I am familiar with the grandparents raising the grandson in our family. I have a cousin, Michelle, who became pregnant at a very early age with Joey, and her parents raised Joey. And those were my godparents. They lived in East Aurora, New York, but I'm familiar with this concept. Obviously now it's really blown up, and I'm learning more as I get to know you, Craig, and It's a Grand Life. In terms of Fentanyl Fathers, I lost my son Drew in 2013. So I've had a little bit of time to recover, but anybody who's lost son or daughter to fentanyl or any other type of sudden loss, to be honest with you, I took a jog today and I played Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, which was a song I used to sing him when he'd go to sleep when he was a kid, and I cried like a baby. So I don't know that it gets any easier. I don't know why I channeled that today. It wasn't in anticipation of this. It just comes, those roadblocks. You can talk a good game and say you're turning your purpose into passion, and your pain into purpose and all that. But at times the grief is a 2x4 across the face with nobody to suture you up. It's pretty bad. But anyway, Drew passed away in 2013. I wasn't doing too well. I really did not know how to deal with it. I did some grief counseling. I was encouraged to get into EMDR therapy, which is very common. It's a PTSD type of thing that they give guys like coming back from Vietnam type of thing.
Yep.
And you get that call, your son's dead. Drew's dead. I got it in the middle of the night from my son Jack. I have two sons, and this is my firstborn. I happened to really like the guy. I mean, we were really close. And he blew my mind, and I started reading all these books about the afterlife and what's it like for Drew. And I mean, I was so lost. And then I finally found some purpose. I got a twinge of the feeling of purpose in 2018. Convinced my wife to run for Congress on the opioid issue. Bipartisan issue. We got a lot of things done there. There's a story behind that, but that's how I kind of got a feel for doing for advocating that gave me personally a little relief in the overwhelming, consuming pain of losing a child.
That is so hard, and I know there's a finality when your son passes. You know, some of us our kids are still on the streets, or they're still using, or they're in jail, and that grief goes on as well. And it's different. I guess there's a hope that things will turn around, but I've heard stories of a lot of kids that are still using that are surrounded by fentanyl, and one of my daughter's friends was a heroin addict that mixed the heroin with the fentanyl so he would get an appropriate high, and that just sounds insane, but that's what's out there. And so you felt led to not waste your pain. You started Fentanyl Fathers, and how has that gone for you so far?
Fentanyl Fathers has gone well. I'm a little frustrated in that when we started with a rush, with the urgency, knowing that, hey, we gotta do something. There was a particular political event that happened that made me decide that pulling for any political candidate is not a game plan. Certainly not one that I'm accountable for.
Right.
That's just, as Theodore Roosevelt said, that's the man in the stands, not the man in the arena. The only one that counts is the man in the arena, according to TDR. So, but I, in 2022, we got into it after the November elections. We knew that there was going to be another 100 and some odd thousand dead in 2023 short of our intervention. We wanted to be, and I think that a lot of good things can start with idealism. We wanted to be the Paul Revere's of fentanyl and get in and warn kids. I did some research. I'd been at this for a while. As I said, we ran on when it was called the opioid epidemic in 2018. Believe it or not, we got $6 billion floated through a plug that was inserted into the State of the Union address 2018. It got budget. I think that money was dissipated and misspent. People in your audience, people like me, are the actual right target. Like, we get it. There's an instant fellowship. Everybody understands how bad it is. In your audience, sometimes they're the added benefit or responsibility of raising these kids.
Right, 100%. It
is maybe a blessed distraction, or just compounds, or maybe delays their grief. I don't know, but it's going well in that where we are. We've been in 5 states where we have beachheads in 11. We want to be in all 50. We got a couple laws that are probably going to pass to mandate our education. We're partners with the DEA. Where I would say our biggest case study would be, and I think the bottom line is less death. If you can connect the dots on less death. I know that we had something to do with this. In Miami-Dade, we got an agreement to go in through the whole county, Miami-Dade. And we have a guy there in Florida. He's a co-founder. His name's Bob Minotti. Great guy. He really, really helped our organization. And we went down. We did all high schools in Miami-Dade. There were 62 of them.
Wow.
After we did that, and that's, we might have seen like 40,000 kids. After we did that, deaths according to the medical examiner, went down by 350 year over year.
Wow.
And we asked there's a county just north of Miami-Dade, which is called Broward.
Right.
And we had a guy who was in charge of United Way there. He was a statistician, an older gentleman. He kept all the stats on deaths. He was in touch with the medical examiner, the age groups and everything. And we had a meeting about this, and I asked the question, what do you attribute that to? And he said, well, it's the program that South Florida Opioid Alliance is doing by engaging Fentanyl Fathers, he said.
Really?
I said, wow. So I was thrilled to hear that.
We also didn't know you were with Fentanyl Fathers.
I don't think he was aware of that at the time. I was invited to like a large Zoom gathering. But that's the type of nudge that can get you out of bed and say, okay, you're doing something right.
Right.
You're getting the message out. But we really want to scale this in a big way. We're partnered with the DEA. I'm looking for that magic wand to just say, get 40 bereaved parents into a boiler room and start calling all the bereaved parents in every area of the country where there's no coverage to go and warn these kids like Paul Revere about fentanyl.
So important. Yep.
Go there. Just let them know, give them the heads up they deserve, because they're like walking the plank, and they're 100%. Walking right off that plank into the sharks, just like in Peter Pan, because they think they're smarter than the average adult who doesn't know how to order drugs up on Snapchat and have them delivered to the door and tell mom and dad that, don't worry, it's DoorDash, I got it. I would imagine in your case, there's young adults who, once they're out of the house, they might be looking for a Xanax, a Percocet, an Oxycontin, an Adderall, or even some marijuana that's laced with it. Certainly got into the cocaine supply. 80% of the drug supply is poisoned with fentanyl. So like the 90s they want their recreation back called drug use, because that's out.
Right.
That's out. We tell our kids, go do something safer. Like, why don't you try base jumping off a mountain? How do you do it? You just grab some wings and you jump. Guess how many of those people die? Only 1 in 5,000. If you go order yourself a prescription pill online, you'll die 8 and 10 times. There's no second chance here. And we've discovered that kids, their biggest motivator is to not disappoint mom. Don't have mom walk in their bedroom and find them with cold feet, blue lips, and the whole ugly scene. And I hear it over and over again because we get most of the parents who this happens to, they're so traumatized. But we love, our ministry is part to warn the kids. The other part is to give purpose to these parents so that they can get some mileage out of this death that was so bad, and make that death pay. Demand, like the Godfather, I'm going to make it pay. And we've been able to do that, but it needs to go faster. We need to scale faster. There's 25,077 schools in America, and we just hit a fraction of it. We need to scale, and we can, because the numbers are big.
Yes.
Since 2019, there's been 500,000 young people dying from fentanyl. That, if my math is correct, means that there's 1 million bereaved parents.
100%.
The vast majority of bereaved parents are very open to advocating for their child. There's a small percentage, they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to bring attention to how their child died. But this thing is a tsunami. It's slaughtering our youth. There's nothing to be compared with fentanyl. Nothing.
Absolutely. The other thing that jumped out at me, Greg Swan, was that when when I saw one of your videos that was put together by the group out of Texas, and you were talking about your partnership with the DEA, which sounds great, but the DEA said to Fentanyl Fathers, "You guys come do the assemblies. You're way better than we are. You get a much better response than just a police officer coming in and talking about narcotics." And why is that?
Well, if you think about it, even going back to your own high school days, if you had an adult figure come in, particularly a cop,
Right.
and try to reason with you, no matter how hip they seem, as the DEA describes it themselves. Ann Milgram, she was in the news yesterday. I met with her not long ago. She was talking about a bereaved mom. That they talk about their stories, and their halls at DEA headquarters are filled with pictures, including my son's picture, staring across the hall at prints. The answer, Craig, is they're just a cop lecturing kids about drugs, maybe with a deck. So they're a cop with a deck lecturing kids about drugs. That is almost the epitome of the definition of a cliche. And it's one that kids can't afford to pay attention to. When I walk into our assemblies, kids have these out, they're squawking on these, talking to their friends next door,
Right.
Maybe trying to look normal or not out of place. There's a lot of pressure on young people these days that we didn't have before, keeping up with social media and whatnot. But when I tell them, like, I could be as goofy looking as Ward Cleaver, getting up there and displaced as, what is an old guy doing talking to young high schoolers, and what's this all about? And when I say the following words, "Hey kids, thanks for coming in." After I asked them to fill out a survey. We take a before and after survey, so we measure their fentanyl awareness. So without measuring, you can't manage.
Right.
So we're measuring it. That empowers us to open up more schools. But we say, "Hey kids, I'm here on a sad mission," and I just turn, look at the screen. I say, "I lost my son to this." When I say that, I've had principals say to me, because they yell at their kids. They're like, "Kids, I want you to be respectful to the speaker, blah, blah, blah. Put your phones away, blah, blah, blah." I talk to them. I'm like, "Hey, you don't have to say any of that. I have a little magic pixie dust that makes them shut up." And they're like, "Tell me what it is." I'm like, "Well, you have to lose your kid to get the magic pixie dust. So you don't want to know what it is." But when I say that, you can hear a pin drop. There's something built into every one of these kids that is a universal respect for the loss of young death. They don't like to hear that one of their own died.
Right.
Or they're interested in what the face of grief looks like. It's a little freaky maybe to them. Whatever it is a real magnet to get their attention. You have to hold their attention. We do. We go right into this really heart-pounding 279 kids dying a day. We show 279 pictures of kids on the screen with this great music to it. It was done by a guy who's a bereaved dad, Jamie McCarthy, one of the co-founders as well. And he's done 6 Super Bowl commercials. So he knows how to, throw some professional stuff at it. And we also show a movie called Dead on Arrival. We have 2 different versions of that. One is a diverse version. So I could have used this last year when I went down to Miami. I get up on stage. I'm the only white guy in the room, literally.
Right.
And, there's all sorts of different flavors in Miami. But one of the universals, you got to speak Spanish. We have the movie dubbed into Spanish.
Okay.
And but the other one is made for maybe, urban versus rural. Either way, we believe we have the right mix. This movie is an multiple Indie award-winning movie. It's for bereaved parents telling their story of losing their kid, and it pulls you in emotionally. I took the DEA out to lunch. They did 3 high schools with me in Rochester, Michigan here recently.
Okay.
And we went out to lunch. I went out to lunch with this guy named Orville Green, special agent in charge of 3 or 4 states, kind of a important DEA guy. And I said, "Orville, you've done the assemblies with us, because the time limit for the assemblies is 45 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
What would you have to get in and out? Those are the rules. That's the reality of being able to move a class in and out. You might have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A, depending on how long it takes for them to get situated and you to get going. You got to be ready. All the technical stuff has to be ready. We go into each school and we bring in just a USB stick. Like this. We plug that thing into their computer system. Mm-hmm. It has to be working with the audio and the visual and the sound check prior to getting in. And we got to be ready to go. It shows the movie and everything. There's no buffering. It's all hot loaded. But I said, what would you take out? And the first thing Orville said was, well, not the movie. And I was glad he said that, because the movie would be, maybe you would think, the most vulnerable thing that you could take out.
Right.
There's five pillars you have to have in it. You have to have that emotive movie, which sucks them in.
Right.
You have to have the bereaved parent presenter. Kids do not pay attention to anything that's not authentic. That gives them the authenticity, and you might as well use it because you have them. So you got the bereaved parent presenter and the emotive movie. Well, it's an education for them. You have to have a deck with the facts.
Right.
So you give them the facts. What do the facts produce? The fact that if you see someone go down to an overdose and they're turning blue and you have 7 minutes and you don't have access to naloxone,
right,
which comes in the form of Narcan or Loxato, you're screwed. So you got to know where that is and how to use it. So we demonstrate that. We essentially demystify the fact that you have to be a medical professional of any kind to use it, like Flonase. You take it. We use lay terms, street terminology. We say, you take this sucker, shove it up their nose as far as you can till it stops. You unload it. Done. We demonstrate on stage with a puff of naloxone, and that's it. That reverses. We show them how it rips the opioid receptors, which plug up the back of your brain. That's how overdoses happen. They basically essentially stop your automatic breathe in, breathe. That's what they stop. They stop you from breathing. And so if you fall asleep, you're not breathing, you turn blue and die. So that brings people back. And then all we do at the end is measure how aware they are. We say all together, I'll never try, so I'll never die from fentanyl. And we encourage the principals to have a home for their naloxone, usually by the AED unit. Most schools have no idea. And it's really a sin that most of these kids are unaware that, holy crap, pardon me, but are you kidding me? Like, I could order this stuff up on Snapchat, have it delivered to my house, and it would kill me? Yeah, that's right, Einstein. And that's not a pharmacist selling it to you.
Right.
And people, get caught up in, how can you tell a fake pill from a real pill? Because the DEA loves to show, a fake, they call them dirty 30s, a blue pill that looks like a Percocet and one that's stamped by a pill press. And how can you tell the difference? This is how you can tell. If it doesn't have your name on it, Billy, it's going to kill you. Okay?
Right.
That's it. Right. And, we try not to talk too patronizingly like that, but that is the reality.
Right.
If your name is not on the prescription, it will kill you dead like rape kills bugs.
Right.
100%. Just round up, you're gone. So, and then the root causes of this stuff, Craig, everybody knows it comes from China. The precursors are made in China.
Right.
There's a movie. There's two references I give people on that. If you have any doubt, one is done by National Geographic, and it's called Trafficked, and it's on fentanyl. Have you seen it?
I think you referred me to that before.
It's insane, but it shows how it comes in from China.
Yep.
The whole pipeline, and then how it's taken into America and distributed. Why is fentanyl ubiquitous in America? It is right now. It's everywhere. Every state's a border state. It's too late to really complain about it coming across the border. It's here. The other thing is, and it's pressed and made by the cartels. The other movie I put people to is a documentary called contaminated, and it's out of St. Louis. You watch that. Contaminated at the 15:48 mark to the 17:48 mark is a 2-minute mind-blowing clip of a guy who wrote a book called Fentanyl Inc. He says, well, if I'm writing a book, I might as well go to China. He went and pretended he was a drug dealer in Shanghai. He goes, I'd love to see, your operation. They're like, yeah, come on over. And he goes there, and as far as the eye can see, it looked like a Wall Street Journal or Wall Street trading mosh pit. Guys on their headphones, white shirts, black pants, and with their monitors in front of them. And every one of them was just on their headset selling fentanyl to Western customers. It was underwritten by the Chinese government. Mothers of these guys are proud of them because they have a retirement plan, a 401k. Well, my son sells fentanyl, really. And they're selling them to Western customers. Those are the cartels. That's the machine. So if you want to take on the cartels, you better bring a pretty big gun. If you want to take on China, you better bring a nuke. I don't have those kind of resources, but I got a mouth, and I've got communication skills, and I've got empathy for those who lost those.
Absolutely.
So we decided we would just try to scale this and go warn the kids, because we have to go cut them off. Last thing I would tell you, Craig, before I let you do a little back and forth, is we kind of model ourselves a little bit after Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was asked, what makes you so great? Do you remember what he said?
He goes where he anticipates the puck.
He anticipates it. So another way that he said that is, he said, I go to where the puck is going to be, not where it is.
Right.
And we know the puck is headed for their mouth. And our last opportunity is to get in front of them like a goalie and say, you want to think about that for a second?
Right.
You're going to get in trouble. You're young. You're going to go have a lot of fun, hopefully. And hopefully your mistakes will not cost you your life or literally ruin your family. I mean, the ugly stepchildren of this whole thing are the siblings. They're
100%.
Devastated. My son, Jack, just never really got over losing his only brother, Drew. And then, the friends, our chosen family, those guys are devastated, and they really don't know how to deal with it. And it's, last year there's 107,543 dead. The year before, 110,000. The year before that, I was at 107,000 again. So it's like the last 3 years in a row, 300,000. And like I said, since 2019, it's 500,000. I mean, Vietnam in 10 years killed 58,000 Americans.
10 years.
In 10 years.
Right.
This is 1 year. It's 2 Vietnams. Drunk driving, 10,500.
A year.
A year. Childhood cancer is 1,600. If you take it all the way to age 40, it's 9,000.
Wow.
You add all that stuff up, 9/11, 2,900 some odd people died. You add all those famous deaths up, they still are less than 1 year of fentanyl. So where's the priority? If avoiding death is the priority, this is your biggest problem. And prevention is, I wish somebody was sitting in the audience and talked to my kid, about this.
100%.
We've gotten too late to a couple assemblies that were scheduled, had to be rescheduled. The last one we went to in Coral Gables, the kid, they were all harried. A kid had died that morning. He had died that morning. And we were scheduled to be there a month earlier, but the football coach there committed suicide a month earlier. He was this gregarious football coach, wrote motivational books, killed himself. And so they called us up the night before. They're like, we're canceling school tomorrow. We can't even tell you why, but I found out later it was because of him. Had he not done that, I'd have been there a month earlier. These kids leave crystal clear. Oh, I'm going out of this world some way, but I ain't going out that way.
100%.
I'm not going for that fentanyl. I'm onto it. Thanks for the heads up. I'm good. And there's no assemblies to warn kids about not drinking gasoline. Why is that? Because they know it's poison.
Right.
We put the stink of poison on fentanyl. We open their eyes, and that's it. On to the next. So there are fortunately a lot of wealthy people, like thinking of David Siegel. I actually have a meeting with them later today. They started something called Victoria's Voice. The billionaire, he lost his daughter, Victoria, on a reality show. Her picture is right next to Drew's in the DEA museum. These guys, I believe, like the great quote out of Esther, who's to say you haven't been raised to such a position for such a time as this?
Such a time as this.
And he wants to, if I had that kind of money, I would just make certain every doggone school in America was crystal clear.
100%.
Fentanyl is gasoline, children. And, it doesn't take that much to convince them. That's what we do. And
that's powerful.
Part.
Well, the other thing that is very convincing to me, when you, in part of your presentation, you show a legitimate drug. It was a blue pill. I forget which one it was. And then Percocet or something. And then you show a fentanyl copy, and you cannot tell the difference. They're absolutely carbon copies. So you don't know if you've got the real thing or a fake thing. But for our audience, we've got grandparents who are raising their grandkids all over the country. Many of them are, fentanyl fathers, fentanyl mothers. Now they're raising grandkids. And how can we come alongside fentanyl fathers and get you into high schools across the country? I mean, what could we do to, because I think you need to be in those 25,000 schools yesterday. And
yesterday, we like I said, we got into we were active in Alaska, Michigan, Ohio, Texas, and Florida this past year. And we've got bereaved parents who are willing to become state directors. I would tell the grandparents a couple things. First of all, I thought, man, how do I say this to these grandparents without sounding offensive? And I'm sure you're getting nervous about it right now, or maybe thinking, I'll just edit this out, whatever's coming out of his mouth. But it's this.
I don't think it'll be offensive.
I wish I had a son from Drew. I wish I had a little old yeller, pup. But I don't have anything from Drew. Drew died when he was 24, and his legacy ended there. He was pretty special to me. So I know it's really, really, really tough raising. In fact, I don't know how tough it is. I had my godparents did it. It's a lot being older and raising. I'm having a hard enough time with the new puppy that we have running around. I can't imagine with a kid. I know guys. One of the guys who helped start Fentanyl Fathers, Tom Gusweiler. He was. I was doing a spiritual retreat with him, and he had to get out of there and go take the 8-year-olds to the bowling alley for the birthday. I'm like, really, Tom? Yeah, that's what we do.
That's exactly what we do. Yep.
And so I'm like, wow, what you can do is, first of all, nobody is in more of a position of authority than the bereaved parent, the bereaved. Nobody can tell you didn't suffer the loss you did. You did. You're paying for it every day. So realize first the power that you have as a grandparent is unbelievable. I stay out of politics now. Like most people, I had a political bent, but I do well on both sides, depending on where I want to get my agenda. Like, for example, a wonderful Democrat in Michigan is taking our Fentanyl Fathers and Mothers Act and making it law in Michigan. A Republican did that for us in Texas. A Democrat did that for us in California. So we love them all. But in terms of moving the needle, I'm struggling to get back my train of thought where I was going on that. What were we talking about?
Well, we were talking, what could our audience do?
Oh, yeah.
So
I was the Democrat analogy I was going to give you. Thank you. I'll take some Prevagen later. Thank you. I'm 62 myself, so I should be a grandpa. The Nancy Pelosi, when she was the Speaker of the House, and this was back when we got it was right after we got this $6 billion floated, and we did that through Paul Ryan. But she had a rule, and she inadvertently gave me and us as bereaved parents a big compliment. And this was her unwritten rule: no bereaved parent gets near my door. And what she meant by that is I lose the minute they walk in, because there's no arguing with the bereaved parent. Nobody's going to push you around. Nobody.
Right.
So when you realize you have that kind of power, what can you do with it? Well, I would argue, go to your school principal, go to your school board, and say, look, this is slaughtering the snot out of our children. I've lost my kid to it. I think we need to get this information in front of kids. It's got to be more than a movie. There's a group called Fentanyl Fathers willing to come in and do it. We do it for free. We're a 501c3. We take donations, of course, but we want to get in there and warn these kids. Just shake them a little bit. And when we walk out, these kids are like, no, I'm good. I got it. And the kids are great. They come up to us and hug us and thank us. Oh. They're super. It really opens up. Everything gets broken down once you're in there and you're like, I lost my doggone kid to this. It's cathartic and it's healing. And I know that over 100 kids are alive today because of my son Drew passed away. Would I rather Drew be alive and those 100 kids be dead? Well, depends, I guess, where my faith barometer is at. Right. Selfishly, sure, I'd take Drew back, but I can now see that his life was really, really worthwhile lived, and his death was really, really worthwhile. I'll just, for purposes of your picture there, I'll just show you a picture of Drew when he was in high school. There he is, my guy.
Handsome young man.
He's a great guy, and he went on to become, an Abercrombie model. He was a 160 IQ. He was all state as a freshman, state champion. He had a lot of talent. He was super funny, but we lost him. And so I would say these people, if anybody has a scriptural bent or a faith bent in your audience, and they subscribe to what the Bible says, this is what I believe is our core responsibility. Winston Churchill said, the price of greatness is responsibility. And I look at Proverbs chapter 24, verse 11 and 12. And in the Living Bible, it says, rescue those who are staggering toward their death. Hold back those headed for slaughter.
Right.
If you say, I didn't know about it, God, who knows all hearts, knows yours, and he knows you knew. And when I saw that, God knows I know. God, doggone right, God knows I knew. I lost my kid.
Right.
So what am I going to do? Sit on my hands and let the rest of these, naive kids walk off the plank toward the slaughter? No, I've got to do something about it. So I'm trying to, as efficiently as possible, do something about it. And I'm optimistic that there's going to be some smart people who are going to come alongside us and help us scale it faster. We need to see every doggone school in the country.
I agree. And our guest today on It's a Grand Life has been Greg Swan, and he is one of the co-founders of Fentanyl Fathers. For our entire audience out here in the Grand Life area, I suggest you look at the bottom of the screen where it says fentanylfathers.org. Check it out. Reach out to the principal of your kid's school or your grandkid's school. We need to take this nationwide. This is the only group that I know that prevents more grand families. And and I know there's an epidemic of us across the country. And if we don't get this fentanyl father word out, it's going to be on our heads. We got to let folks know of the fantastic work that Greg and Jamie and all the folks over at Fentanyl Fathers are doing. And I've met some of the moms across some of the states you've referred me to, and they would be powerful witnesses of what this has done to their family. And Greg, we can't thank you enough for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life. And
Greg, thank you so much. I would say if anybody wants to email us, it's at fentanylfathers.org.
Yep.
You can email myself, Greg, Jerry G at fentanylfathers.org. Or another guy who books a lot of our schools is Mike, M-I-K-E, at fentanylfathers.org, and just put in school assembly opportunity, and we will make it happen this next year. You'll save a life.
I love that. Thanks so much for joining us, my friend. Please come back again and keep us posted on how you're doing across the country. And just know that we are your partners in prevention, and we love the work you're doing.
It's an honor, Craig, and you're doing God's work. Thank you so much.
Well, so
God bless all your and my heart goes out. Big hug to all the grieving grandparents. It's a tough road, man. We'll be reunited with our kids soon enough.
Oh, yes, we will. And we'll see you next time on It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.